So the Indiana Fever are facing the Chicago Sky, and they are playing, obviously, in the United Center. There are 20,000 seats. It is going to be one of the most biggest attended WNBA games of all time. Caitlin Clark's influence on the WNBA isn't just impressive, it's historic. People expected her to be a big name when she made the leap from college to the pros, but no one anticipated the level of impact she would have in such a short time. Now her presence is rewriting the script of women's basketball. I don't know if it's going to be more or less attended, because I think it was 20,000 something in the Mystics' last game of last season, where in fairness, Caitlin Clark played, 15 minutes in that game or something. Caitlin Clark she didn't play in the second half. But yeah, that was obviously a huge game. Every game she plays turns into an event, with tickets selling out in record time. The latest example, the Indiana Fever versus the Chicago Sky at the United Center, where 20,000 seats disappeared within 20 minutes. That's not just demand, that's dominance. But this game being in the United Center, if you guys did not see, tickets sold out. And tickets sold out in 5 minutes. But here's where things get really interesting. The game wasn't just anywhere. It was in Chicago, the home of Angel Reese. This was supposed to be her moment, her chance to showcase her talent in front of her city. Instead, the headlines revolved around Clark once again. The crowd wasn't packing the arena for Reese. It was Clark they came to see. The rivalry, which had already been fueled by on-court battles and off-court debates, just reached a new level. Angel Reese has never been one to back down from competition. In fact, she thrives on it. From her days at LSU, she built a brand based on confidence, intensity, and an unapologetic attitude. She embraced the role of the villain, feeding off criticism and using it as motivation. But this was something different. Seeing her home crowd filled with Fever jerseys instead of Sky ones was a clear message. Caitlin Clark is the star people are paying to see. It's going to be all Fever fans again, by the way. Now, people do not realize, there are some Chicago Sky fans. There really are. But, as you guys can tell, not every Chicago Sky game will sell out this year, even in their 10,000-seater stadium. Most won't sell out. And the Fever are going to sell out every single game immediately in Cambridge. This isn't the first time Reese has found herself in Clark's shadow. Their college days set the stage for what has become one of the most talked about rivalries in women's sports. Their NCAA championship showdown was a turning point, not just for them, but for the entire sport. Clark's record-breaking performances had already placed her at the center of the conversation, but Reese took things to another level with her on-court gestures, particularly the "you can't see me" moment that went viral. That moment wasn't just about competition, it was a cultural flashpoint. Fans were divided, some saw it as great showmanship, while others criticized Reese for unsportsmanlike behavior. But regardless of which side people took, one thing was clear: women's basketball had never been talked about this much. The rivalry was officially born, and it has only intensified since. Now fast forward to the WNBA, and the tension has carried over in ways no one fully expected. While Reese has remained vocal and continued to build her brand, Clark has done something even more significant. She has shifted the entire landscape of the league. Viewership numbers have skyrocketed since her arrival. Merchandise sales are at an all-time high. Teams that once struggled to fill seats are now selling out arenas just because she's coming to town. This isn't just about talent, it's about influence. And that's what makes this rivalry so fascinating. Reese is a great player, no doubt about it, but Clark is the one moving the needle, and that reality is hard to ignore, especially when ticket sales in Reese's own city prove that the demand for Clark is simply unmatched. It's worth looking back at how other star rivalries have played out in sports history. The NBA has seen plenty of them. Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird, LeBron James versus Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant versus Tim Duncan. But what sets those rivalries apart is that each player had equal standing. Both sides had an argument for being the best. With Clark and Reese, that balance isn't there. Clark's impact on the game isn't just about her stats, it's about what she represents. Her ability to hit logo threes with ease, her high basketball IQ, and her knack for delivering highlight reel plays every single game have made her a phenomenon. She's not just a player, she's an attraction. When people buy tickets, they're not just watching a basketball game, they're witnessing something special. That's what's drawing fans in, and that's what's leaving Reese's supporters frustrated. social media has only added fuel to the fire. After the United Center sellout, Twitter, Instagram, and sports forums exploded with debates. Reese's fans claimed the WNBA was prioritizing Clark's success over others, while Clark supporters pointed to the hard facts. Clark delivers results both on the court and at the ticket booths. The back and forth was relentless, but one thing stood out. Reese was once again in a situation where she had to prove she belonged in the same conversation as Clark. The bigger picture here is the business side of the WNBA. The league has long struggled to capture mainstream attention, while the talent level has always been high. The financial struggles, lack of media coverage, and limited fan engagement made it difficult for the WNBA to break through to a wider audience. But now, thanks to Clark, things are changing. Look at what happened with the Washington Mystics. They moved 2 of their games against the Indiana Fever to Baltimore, a direct move to capitalize on Clark's draw. This isn't a coincidence. It's a calculated decision based on numbers. The Mystics knew that by shifting the games, they could pack a bigger arena and make significantly more revenue. The same thing happened in Chicago. The Sky organization wasn't just hosting a game, they were hosting an event, one that fans desperately wanted to be a part of. But this shift raises an important question. Where does that leave Reese? She has been vocal about wanting to change the WNBA to bring more attention to women's basketball. But now the attention isn't coming in the way she expected. Instead of being the face of the movement, she's becoming a supporting character in the Caitlin Clark show. That has to sting, especially in her own city. The way Reese responds to this moment will define the next phase of her career. Will she use it as motivation, elevate her game, and prove that she's just as much of a draw as Clark? Or will she continue to fight a battle that's already being won by someone else? The greats in sports history have always found ways to adjust and reclaim their narrative. Michael Jordan used being cut from his high school team as motivation to become the greatest player ever. Tom Brady used being a late-round draft pick to fuel a legendary NFL career. If Reese wants to cement her place as one of the biggest names in the WNBA, now is the time to prove it. It's not just about skill, it's about marketability. Clark has a game that translates into highlight reels, viral clips, and must-watch moments. Her style of play is entertaining, fast-paced, and electric. Reese, while effective, doesn't have that same flashiness. Her strengths lie in rebounding, defense, and hustle plays, things that don't always capture the attention of casual fans. That's the fundamental difference between the two. Clark is the type of player who makes people who have never watched the WNBA before stop and pay attention. She's bringing in a completely new audience, an audience that isn't just watching games but buying tickets, jerseys, and merchandise. Reese, on the other hand, has a dedicated following, but it hasn't translated into the same kind of business impact. The other challenge for Reese is perception. Every time Clark steps onto the court, she delivers. Whether it's hitting a clutch three-pointer, breaking an assist record, or simply putting on a show, she consistently gives fans something to talk about. Reese, meanwhile, has struggled with consistency. She has flashes of brilliance, but she also has games where she's less effective. And in a league where every performance matters, that inconsistency is what's keeping her a step behind. That's not to say Reese can't change the narrative. Rivalries thrive on competition, and if Reese steps up and starts delivering dominant performances, the conversation could shift. But right now the reality is clear. Clark is leading the way, and everyone else is trying to catch up. The WNBA is evolving in ways no one fully expected, and Clark is at the heart of it. Her arrival has completely changed the league's financial dynamics. Previously, teams struggled with attendance, and national media coverage was inconsistent at best. But now, every game Clark plays is a guaranteed sellout, and television ratings have surged. The Fever's road games are suddenly the hottest tickets in town, and franchises that once struggled to get fans in the seats are now experiencing record-breaking attendance. For Reese, this has to be frustrating. She isn't just another rookie. She's a college champion, a proven competitor, and a player who built her own following through sheer confidence and grit. She plays with passion, brings energy to every game, and isn't afraid to speak her mind. But here's the problem. WNBA success isn't just about presence, it's about results. And right now, Clark's results are overshadowing everything else happening in the league. This isn't just a Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese debate, it's about the nature of sports stardom. The most successful athletes in history didn't just play well, they created moments that stuck with fans forever. Michael Jordan had his clutch shots, Serena Williams had her dominance on the tennis court, Tom Brady had his Super Bowl comebacks. Clark has already started to create those moments in the WNBA while Reese is still searching for hers. The United Center game was a glaring example of how the league is shifting. When tickets sell out in 20 minutes, it's not just because people love basketball, it's because they don't want to miss something special. That level of demand doesn't come from being a great player alone, it comes from being a spectacle, and whether people love or hate Clark, they know she's going to put on a show. Reese's game, by contrast, doesn't have the same built-in entertainment factor. She's a dominant rebounder, a tough defender, and a vocal leader. But her playstyle isn't built for highlight reels in the same way Clark's is. Clark's game is tailor-made for the modern sports audience. Logo threes, impossible passes, and an overall style that looks effortless and electrifying. This isn't the first time a rivalry has been one-sided in terms of attention. The NBA has seen this before. Think about Shaquille O'Neal and Tim Duncan. Shaq was the showman, flashy, dominant, and larger than life. Duncan was just as effective, if not more so, but he played with quiet precision. The result, Shaq was always the bigger name, even though Duncan was just as accomplished. That's the situation Reese finds herself in. She might be an incredible talent, but Clark is the spectacle, and when people are choosing which WNBA player to watch, they're picking the one who keeps them glued to the screen, the one who delivers viral moments game after game. Social media has only magnified the gap. Every time Clark plays, her highlights flood timelines. Sports analysts break down her performances. Celebrities tweet about her. Meanwhile, Reese's biggest moments tend to come from off-the-court discussions rather than jaw-dropping plays. That's a tough reality to face, and it's something that Reese will have to navigate if she wants to truly be seen as Clark's equal. The bigger issue here is the WNBA's business strategy. For years, the league struggled to find its financial footing. Attendance was inconsistent, TV ratings were low, and teams weren't turning major profits. Clark has changed that almost overnight. Suddenly the league is in the national conversation. Tickets are selling at NBA-level prices. Jersey sales are breaking records. And now the WNBA has a real opportunity to capitalize on this momentum. But that raises an important question. Can the league sustain this level of excitement, or is this just a temporary spike? Clark's popularity isn't fading anytime soon, but one player alone can't carry an entire league forever. If the WNBA wants long-term success, it needs multiple superstars generating this kind of excitement. That's where Reese comes in. She doesn't have to beat Clark in popularity, but she does need to cement herself as a must-watch player. She needs her own defining moments, the kind of performances that make people say, "I have to watch Angel Reese play tonight." One way she can do that, develop her game further. Right now, Clark has a massive edge in terms of offensive versatility. She can shoot from anywhere, create plays, and control the tempo of a game. If Reese wants to close the gap, she needs to expand her offensive arsenal. She's already dominant in the paint, but adding a mid-range jumper or a reliable three-point shot would make her even more dangerous. The other thing Reese needs to do is whip it. Nothing shifts a rivalry like success. If the Chicago Sky start dominating, if Reese leads them to deep playoff runs or even a championship, the conversation starts to change. Right now, Clark's popularity is fueled by her individual brilliance, but if Reese starts stacking up wins, people will have no choice but to pay attention. The history of sports tells us that rivalries only last when both sides are competitive. LeBron James and Kevin Durant had an incredible rivalry because they both won championships and went head-to-head in the NBA Finals. If one of them had never reached that level, the rivalry wouldn't have mattered. If Reese wants to truly rival Clark, she needs to be part of big games, championship races, and legacy-defining moments. The WNBA, for its part, has to be smart about how it markets its stars. Right now they're riding the Clark wave because it makes financial sense, but they also need to ensure that other players, Reese included, are given platforms to shine. That means making sure nationally televised games include multiple teams, pushing more marketing for other young stars, and finding ways to tell compelling stories that go beyond just one player. Reese does have an opportunity here. She has a strong personality, a massive following, and the kind of presence that can't be ignored. If she embraces the challenge, steps up her game, and starts delivering more highlight-worthy performances, she can position herself as the perfect counterpart to Clark. But it won't be easy. Clark isn't slowing down. She's only going to get better, and the demand to see her play is only growing. If Reese wants to keep up, she has to elevate in every way, on the court, in the media, and in the way she carries herself as a star. This rivalry isn't going away anytime soon. If anything, it's just beginning. Clark and Reese will face each other multiple times a season, and every game will be an opportunity for one of them to shift the narrative. If Reese wants to prove she belongs in the same conversation, she has to seize those moments, because right now the WNBA belongs to Caitlin Clark, and until someone else steps up and changes that, she's going to remain the biggest name in the game. The next few seasons will define how this rivalry plays out. Will Reese rise to the challenge and make it a true battle, or will Clark continue to dominate both on the court and in popularity? That's the real question, and fans, whether they love or hate it, will be watching closely. The future of women's basketball is here, and Clark is leading the charge. The only question now is whether Angel Reese can catch up.